What is going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Second Guessing with Stress, and I'm your host, Garrett Williams, aka Texans commenter. Today, we're joined by a very special guest, Cecil Shorts. Cecil, how you doing, man?
I'm good, brother. Appreciate you having me on, man. Love. Let me give you some love real quick. I love your content. Love what you do out there. It's so detailed. It's so precise. And I come to you, honestly, you don't know. I come to you for like details and facts. I'm like, well, let me see what Texans commenters say. Okay. Okay, good. And I go ahead and talk about it or do what I got to do. So you do a good job, man.
Man, I appreciate that. And that's kind of my goal, too, because I know not everyone's either one, as crazy as I am or obsessed about the Texans as I am, or two, has the time. So, I mean, that's kind of my goal is I know people are fans, and I kind of want to make it easier to be a fan or a reporter or a journalist. I kind of can be like an almanac, I guess. I'm taking the time to do it. So it's good to hear that from you. But obviously, I should have said this in the intro to you. You're a former NFL player. Uh, Obviously, got drafted by the Jaguars. You played for the Texans as well as the Bucks. You're currently an MC for the Texans, but like I mentioned to you briefly before the show, my goal with this is for people to better get to know the people that we see around our organization. So, with that being said, if you don't mind, just give me a background on you and your football journey and kind of how it's led you to what you're doing now.
Oh man, grew up in the football family. Uncles, dad, everybody I knew played football. That's just what it was. My dad was my high school football coach back in Cleveland, Ohio. So I grew up, literally grew up football in my whole entire life. From watching every single round of the draft with my dad and my brothers, trying to challenge each other on NCAA when we were younger, like the whole night. It was just football. So, went to, like I said, grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. Went to a Division III school, University of Mount Union. Won a couple national championships there, and I actually got to play with a guy named Pierre Garçon,
Mm-hmm.
who played, I want to say, 12 years in the league at receiver. And because of his success, I was able to get looked at. And I got drafted fourth round, like you said, to Jacksonville. Ended up playing 6 years in the NFL for three different teams. And then now it's crazy because now I'm coaching and teaching. I'll be a coach at and teaching at Lamar High School in Houston next year. Looking forward to that. That's like kind of my passion. I just want to coach football and talk about football. Like that's my go-to. My calling, if I'm honest, is to be around kids and the coach. That's my calling. That's my purpose. I feel like I'm very good at doing that. Eventually, I want to be a head coach. But what I like to do is what I'm doing now, which is talking to you, talking ball. Whether it's X's and O's or just straight up opinions on what's going on. That's what I like to do. So right now, I got a couple podcasts going. One is Bleav in Texans podcast, which we actually have a new co-host. And I'm excited about that. You hear him in the radio. You hear him every morning on 16. I'll leave it at that. But I'm excited. I'm
Ooh,
excited
man.
for the new co-host. We'll announce that coming soon. And then there's also another podcast I do based on, like I said, I'm from Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
So it's based in all Cleveland sports. So it's called the Ultimate 216. There's a big show in Cleveland. The last 2 years have grown pretty big called the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. And there's like spin-off shows to that. So we have a spin-off show called the Ultimate 216 that airs every Wednesday live on YouTube. So being able to talk sports, man, and just stay around, stay close to the game, whether it's game day hosts, stuff like that. So it's been a good run.
Man, that's awesome. I love that you shared all of that. And like my takeaway is, obviously you're an NFL athlete, but it seems like you're still no different than us average Joes. Like you just love football and, you're kind of around the game like we are. And I agree. So like, I played in college. I wasn't near the athlete you were, obviously, but I had that same kind of itch. Like, I tell people all the time, like I'll be out in the street with my neighbors and there'll be kids catching the football and my wife
Oh
will
yeah.
catch me. Next thing I know, I'm over there, teaching them technique, and they're like, chill out. He's just trying to catch the football. Like you just can't help it though, right? It's just
You
like that
can't help
innate.
it.
Yeah. So I mean, I feel you on that, man. That's awesome. Congrats on the gig with Lamar. I'll definitely be following you, and that'll be fun to watch as well. And then the podcast you mentioned, they are there on the bottom if y'all want to at any point in time check out what he's got going on. But I just have to ask you, I guess, just to transition right into Texans. What are your thoughts so far in the offseason, between free agency and the draft? How you feel about the team?
Free agency was interesting. It was interesting because you exploded your offensive line, right? You exploded it, which I'm not mad at. I think you needed a different culture there. I think you needed something different to happen, right? Not mad that Larry Tunsil trade. I feel like you got a good haul back for him, but just from what I loved about that move in particular is you're not scared to make an impact move. Like, you're not scared to move one of your best players for what's best for the team. And that stood out to me. Like, if you're Nick Caserio, if you're D'Amico, and as good as Laramie is, it's like, yo, you made a bold move. Now you got to make sure it pays off, right? Because he's obviously one of the best in the game at what he does, but did he fit the culture and what they wanted to do? Honestly, probably not. Probably not. That's just what it is. So I think I love that move as far as offense, but it's just like, all right, now you better back it up and find a way to solidify your offensive line. I'm fine with you doing that, but let's make sure that Ursary and everybody, Cam Robinson and everybody else you brought in, and Cole Popovich, these guys, you got to make sure they're glue, right? On the defense side, oh my gosh, I mean, you know this, but they killed it. I don't even, like, golly, how you get CJ? How you get it? How are you even getting these guys? And you're locking the guys up. Love how they locked up Stingley, how they locked up Petrie, how they locked up some of these guys, because it shows, hey, if we draft you and bring you in and we develop you, we're going to take care of you. You're homegrown, we're going to take care of you. We're going to do the right thing. And that speaks a lot to the younger guys there. Like, hey, you know, if I handle my business, they're going to make sure they take care of me. And whatever role that is, right? That could be a special teams role. Whatever role that is, if you're on there and you're taking care of your business, they're going to reward you. And that's a big deal. So I like what they did as far as free agency and the signings and the offseason. Again, they got to hit on these linemen, though. That's going to be huge. And then when it comes to the draft, I had my mind made up that they were going offensive line. I think I wanted a playmaker, but I'm like, I don't know if I love anybody at that range. Now, I heard rumors that they were trying to get up. And my thought process, I know for a fact they tried to trade up, right? I think we all know that. I think, this is my humble opinion, I haven't talked to anybody. I think they were trying to get a tight end. That's just my thought. Now,
That was a
why?
report out there. There was speculation on that.
Like, that's just my thought. I don't know if it was Loveland or Warren or whatever the case may be. I think they had a lineman in mind. I think Banks was in mind, but I also think a tight end was in mind. It makes sense to me because I'm like, Caley coached tight ends forever, right? He's seen the impact they can do. And I just think when those two tight ends were there, I wouldn't be surprised if it was a possibility, right? But I love that they didn't reach. They didn't love nobody for 20 at 25. All right, okay, cool. Don't just draft a guy to draft a guy. You got to draft a guy that fits what you want to do and that you love, right? And that can come in and make an impact. So they traded back. They got Higgins. I think Higgins is dynamite. I think Higgins is dynamite. I think Noel is dynamite. Or no, sorry, no. I guess it looks like Noel.
Yeah, I got the same battle going on.
Ursary is a good pick. I heard a lot of good things about him. I didn't watch film on him until afterwards, right? And I watched him against not Micah Parsons. What's the guy? Abdul
Carter, the guy who wants
Yep.
everybody's retired numbers.
Yep. So I watched that film and watched some other film. He looks good. I think there's some promise there. I love Woody Marks. It might be my favorite draft pick. I love me some Woody because I think he can complement Joe Mixon so well in the passing game, and he actually is an underrated runner as well. And they added some depth at different positions. So I love what the offseasons bring. Is just, to me, the emphasis has to be on what Nick Caley is bringing to the table and what he wants to do, right? And I think more than anything, Nick Caley needs to make sure he's on the same page with all his offensive coaches. Like, that's the big thing for me. You got to be on the same page with every single offensive coach, especially Cole Popovich. Now, I know they have history. I think 5 years they were coaching together in New England or something like that. But for Nick Caley, first off season, and to blow up the offensive line and then bring in new pieces, they got something in mind, right? So I'm this, and we don't know. We don't know what type of offense they're going to run. We can have ideas,
Yep.
but we don't know because we haven't seen it. He hasn't called plays in the game before, so
He may not know. He's still maybe formulating it himself. You know.
hey, that's a real thing. He may think he probably is right now. Okay, we got this piece, we got that piece. How are we going to use these guys? So it's going to be interesting. But I do, to answer your question in a nutshell, I do love what they did in the offseason, especially on the defensive side. But offensive line has to be a vocal point this offseason.
I love that you gave all the answers. It makes it easier for me to ask the questions. But I think I agree with you, and a lot of people agree with you too. Is like, we might have expected them to go about fixing the O-line post the LT trade and all the cuts. But I guess the one thing it does scream is like they're betting on that. Some of the guys that are still there are better than what we thought. And to me, it's like more of an indictment on Bobby Slowick and Chris Strouser. So, I mean, I guess with that being said, like I've been banking on, and again, I'm speculating as a fan, but watching film and whatnot and having some background in football. But to me, when I watched that offense operate last year and the way they struggled, I mean, it seemed to be when the offensive line got beat and even tight ends too. I mean, that's not talked about enough too. We give a lot of the onus of the blame on the O line, but like the tight ends and the backs weren't great in pass protection either. But the fact that they got beat mentally more often than they did physically, it screamed coaching and scheme to me. And then now with their actions, the way they've kind of, proceeded since the end of the season, it indicates that as well. Do you think that's what it is? And then if so, what is your faith that it can be fixed with that?
I think that's exactly what it is. I think 85% of it was coaching. They look confused out there. They weren't doing, if you look at the Minnesota game, I think it was week 3 or 4, they weren't doing anything confusing on defensive line. It was just a miscommunication from center to guard to tackle to running back to tight end. I remember I went to the Green Bay game and watched Dalton Schultz let guys run by him because he looked confused. And I'm just like, when it comes to a player, especially a veteran, right? Dalton Schultz has been around the game for a while now. A veteran looking confused on the field. Yes, he has to do better, but he's confused on his assignment. That's coaching. That means you're not doing a good job communicating to the guys what needs to be done in different situations. So to me, I think, and it's not a bad slow accession, right? But he didn't do a good job preparing and adjusting as the season went on. Year one, nobody knew you. Great, you got to shock people, make some moves. Now year two, everybody got to study you. Now it's about how can you make adjustments to people studying you and those guys making adjustments to you, right? It's a chess game. It's not checkers, it's chess. You got to be able to think ahead and move different pieces around. And I think I also okay, two things. I think one, he struggled with that, didn't communicate well with him and the offensive line coach. I think two, he didn't let CJ off the leash. I
Yep.
think in year two, he needs to know the protection so well and what's happening that he can say, hey, so we need to make a Louis call here, we need to slide left, or a Roger call, we need to slide right, or whatever the case may be, right? He needs to be able to call the protections or hey, switch the formation and tell Dalton Schultz, you stay in tight, you got anybody off the edge here, right? Or hey, this is gonna be hot, let's do this here. So it's just so many things I think coaching wise that went wrong for the offense last year. And if you and then I'll put it this way too. The defensive mindset last year, what you seen on defense, how aggressive they were to the ball. My favorite player on defense is Aziz. Why? Because he is the like when you hear the word swarm, they talk about swarm, that's what he is. That's his mentality. He's going to play all the way up to the whistle to the point where it's questionable. Right? And as a
Love
coach,
it.
I love that. That's what you want, right? On the offensive side of the ball, you didn't see that aggression.
What's
You
the
saw
quote? It's
guys
better
thinking
to
too much.
say "whoa" than "sick 'em." Like basically, like I'd
Yes.
rather rein it back than tell you to be aggressive.
Yes, and that's exactly what's on offense. You had to tell guys to be aggressive. You had to tell offensive line to be aggressive. You had to tell so like it just wasn't that way. When you're running back, Joe Mixon, again going back to the Green Bay game because it just pops in my head. He's getting hit 2 or 3 yards in the backfield after he touches the ball, and he's able to have a good run because he's Joe Mixon making spin, boom, boom. But that shouldn't be happening, right? So yes, I think 85% of it was the scheme and the coaching and the miscommunication from coach to player. Like it's your job as a coach to put those players in the best position to succeed, and he didn't do that well last year consistently.
Man, I've basically been saying everything you've been saying, and like I know like it's hard to like look at the O line last year and like have all this blind faith that 85% was that, and then we can fix it right off the rip from that. But I think we're like conflating the bad play with that. I mean, the fact that you're referencing these Dalton Schultz plays, and like we said, it wasn't physical, it was mental. So I mean, like we're not even giving ourselves a chance to. And I definitely think that scheme was a big part of it. Like I think part of it too was Bobby was so young, like he didn't know how to
Mhm.
adapt or change these things. But like you saw it in Minnesota and Green Bay, the two games you referenced, like once a defense found one thing we couldn't stop, it's a copycat league. Every team did it and it worked for the entirety of the season. Like simple stuff like delayed blitzes or,
Yep.
just nickel blitzes. Like anytime they brought, that's the thing too. Like the condensed formations were a blessing and a curse because that first year we thrived in it, but now you just invited more defenders in the box. All they had to do was blitz that nickel corner or safety, and we didn't know what to do. So, yeah, I'm hoping that coaching will change quite a bit, and I think it will. But with that being said, too, like, I think the part about CJ Stroud is what stands out to me, like him not having control. Obviously, if you know the protection and are involved with it, you're more likely to know, where you can suspect things to come from. It seemed like in that Shanahan scheme, it's ironically a system where they try to make it easier for your quarterback by taking more off their plate, but in essence, you make it harder. So is that something you observed? And do you see him having more control? And with that too, I guess one more part on that is like one thing I noticed was when I talk about these nickel blitzes is like, it felt like we didn't have any hot routes. Like any offense I was in that was sophisticated, as soon as you see a guy lined up about to blitz, you don't even, if you have your route, you just turn around and you catch the ball. Like I didn't feel like we didn't see any of that. So kind of a loaded question there, but if you want to expand on that.
No, I do think CJ will have the reins. I think he came out in the media recently and said, "Hey, I'm getting the keys to the vehicle and I'm ready to drive. I'm ready to get off of it." So I think when a quarterback works best when he has the full access to the entire offense. Now he can put his team in the best situation to succeed based on what he sees. Because you can call a play from the sideline thinking, this coverage or this blitz or this is about to happen. But in reality, things can switch that fast, right? So if he's able to come to the line of scrimmage, look around and see, okay, hey, we got a tight form, a condensed formation. We got a bunch to the right, but this nickel's about to blitz. Let me tell Schultz, who's the third guy close to the line of scrimmage, let me tell him to stay in block here and let's run, opposite way or something like that, right? Just having the ability, because this is my thing. He's not in college. Second year, he's not in college no more. So he had to compete at the offseason. He can completely watch film. This is his job and only thing to do. So it's his job to understand what's going on, what the defense is going in. Like what the defense is doing, excuse me. And then it's so much that come, like your scouting report, when you get it on Wednesday, when they hand you your scouting report, it's literally, hey, on third down, 69% of the time, they're going to be in cover zero on third and short. When it's third and 2 to 5, it's going to be, so like he knows. But you have to let him you have to trust him almost, right? That's what it is. It's trusting him to put the team and the offense in the best situations to succeed. So I think that'll happen. I think it will be an interesting dynamic between him and Nick Caley, because this is Nick's first time calling plays. So Nick's gonna make mistakes. Nick's going to he's going to, and this is his first time working with CJ as well. So they got to continue to learn each other, right? So I think that dynamic, that relationship is so important, and it's going to be, I'm personally gonna be watching it intentionally on game day. Okay, how are they talking? How they're interacting? How are they talking to the media? Practices, what's going on? Because them having a good relationship is going to equal to a good product on the field, in my opinion. So I do think you'll have the reins. I think when it comes to the hot routes, man, some hot routes I guess are built in like a Shanahan type offense with certain flats, right, and certain things. But there's also certain things that again, I take that back. He came from a Patriot system as well, Nick Caley.
Yes.
So in that offense, which I ran for 2 years, there's tons of hots. There's tons of like, for example, the slot receiver, Christian Kirk, when he comes to the line of scrimmage, right? He's going to have to know what the nickel's doing, what that backer's doing, the safety, his triangle. So he'll look at, and when he comes to the line of scrimmage as a slot receiver, you look at the guy over you, which is the nickel or the linebacker, look at the safety, and you look at the corner. That's your triangle, right? That's your triangle. So based on what happens, like if that nickel blitzes is 2 steps, boom, you're getting the ball out quick. And before the snap, the quarterback will point to you, hey, he's hot. Hey, he's hot, or he's whatever, right? He'll point to him. Hey, Cecil. Hey, Christian. Boom. Him right there. He's hot. If he blitzes, you know it, right? And if he gets catch and get hit, that's an easy 3-4 yards.
And then they quit doing it because you beat them with it. You get them out of that.
All it takes is one time. Boom. Even if it's 3-4 yards. Boom. Dang, that's first down now. Boom. Dang, that's first down, right? Let alone let Christian or Jaylin get that thing and make a move and go and get 12, 25, 30 yards, right? So that's going to be huge. So I'm just so intrigued. Sorry, I'm going off the top. I'm so intrigued.
I love it, dude. This is what I want. Because it's going to be a mix for Caley. He learned in Shanahan and McVay's offense, right? Which is a mix of Shanahan a little bit. It's very, very similar. But he also has some Josh McDaniels
there as well. Whereas tons of hots, there's tons of
Yes.
different passing schemes and motions, and it just I think it can correlate very well if he blends it. But it's gonna be interesting to see how it works.
That's great to hear. I mean, if you have a hot and like we said, like, I guess before that though, like the thing I feel like a lot of times we weren't able to audible and do that because we got to the line of scrimmage with like 5 seconds, 10 seconds or less. So tempo and getting in and out of the huddle will have to be a point of emphasis to be able to get to the line of scrimmage to, be
To
able to
see it.
recognize these
Yep.
potential hots. So I think that'll be a big thing. But I'm super excited. I mean, we'll have to have another talk some other time. The fact that you played in that offense. But I do want to get your thoughts with you being a former receiver, kind of on the current receiver room. Specifically Nico. Is he a top 5, top 3 receiver? And then kind of tell us what you think about Christian Kirk as well.
Nico's top 5 easily, easily. If he didn't get hurt last year, he might be. You might have argued he was the most productive receiver in the league last year. Like he was on his way to be having a super special season. Um, and that was that year 3? That was year 4 for him last year, right? No, year 3.
I think it was year
No,
3.
was it
Uh,
3?
you got me second guessing myself now.
I
I
think I
should know
think
this
you're
off the
right.
top of my head, but
But it's a comfortable look he had on the field, right? It was just a comfort level he had. I'm like, dude, he about to take off. So to me, he's top 5 easily, like easily top 5. I do want to see how Christian Kirk looks with this offense. I think that's going to be interesting because they didn't necessarily draft Noel to be on the bench. You don't do
mhm.
that, right? Higgins is a good addition. Long, lanky. He like to me, his route running looks like he's like a 6 foot 5'11" guy. Like he snaps in and out of his routes crazy. I'm watching film on him like, yo, I'll probably watch like 3, 4 games on Jayden Higgins. And I'm like, this dude can really run routes. Like he can run routes very, very well. Very limber. He can bend. And I played with DeAndre Hopkins. I played with Mike Evans, right? Two guys that Mike Evans for sure going to Hall of Fame. DeAndre Hopkins probably will eventually get to Hall of Fame or have a chance to, right? He'll be in a conversation. And those are bigger, taller guys, and he snaps down better than those guys, right?
Whew.
Like his routes on film, I'm like, dude, this dude, he runs routes like he's a shorter guy, not a big long guy, right? And he's more nimble than what people get him credit for. So I think he'll be a great number 2 to Nico. But Christian and Jaylin and even Mechie, but Christian and so many Jaylins and Jadens now, right?
Team full of J's, man.
But Christian and Noel would be interested in the slot. Because to me, Christian still got the juice. I still think Christian got the juice
Facts.
for sure. He still got the juice. He can run. He can take the top off. One on one, I like him versus any safety, versus any nickel. I think he can win. I think he was in a bad situation last year with some injuries, and then Trevor Lawrence is not living up to expectations right now. I'm not sure what's going on
He
there.
missed him for 2 or 3 touchdowns against us alone.
Man, like you and I was happy, but I'm like, dude, that's a struggle. But Christian can still go, and he's a vet, and he's savvy. And if they run any type of option routes, which New
Mhm.
England did a lot, right? So when Caley was there, um, I know for a fact they ran tons of option routes. So if Kirk has option routes where he can skip off the line of scrimmage and within a 5 yard realm, he can cut out, cut in, or sit, he's gonna kill it. Oh my gosh, he's
Yep.
going to kill it. I wouldn't be surprised if he has 70, 80 catches because he's just going to be eating it up, eating it up, eating it up, eating it up because you get to pick where you're going based on
And
the
now CJ
defense and the
Stroud
coverage.
knows, like, I don't have to read a defense. Like, if I know he has that option route, I can just stare him down. He'll get open.
And he'll literally get open. And as time goes on, the chemistry will build where you'll see, okay, the nickels lined up inside of Kirk in a slot on the right side, and he's inside of him. Oh, he's gonna run an out route here. So he can look
Yep.
him off, boom, and know exactly where it's going, right? Oh, hey, it looks like it might be a trap cover 2 on the right side. He's gonna run out, but he's gonna sit and turn inside. So boom, he'll know exactly what's going on, right? I love option routes. But Kirk, I think that's where he'll dwell in that. You know what I mean? He'll do so even Dalton Schultz, but he'll do so well in that realm. But when you have a guy that you draft, Noel, he reminds me, and somebody told me this. He reminds me of a Steve Smith type,
Oh,
like
damn.
the way his attitude is on the field, the way his mindset is on the field, how he goes up and gets the ball at different times. I mean, he does run a I think a low 4.4 or 4.3. Like he's
Hmm.
rolling. Like people were extremely high, like the McShays. It was some others that were extremely high on him, and were surprised that the Texans wouldn't draft him in the third round, and were surprised that he dropped to the third round. I thought he was a second round guy. So what you have is a lot of competition in this room, and that's what you want because now you're gonna get the best out of the guys, right? But that's that's your top four probably. They're just on paper,
Hmm.
on paper. And then you got Mechie that comes in there.
Hutch
That you got Hutch, you got three Iowa State guys in one room, right? Crazy.
and Justin
Um,
Watson too. People are sleeping on him, man.
Watson can play. Now
Yeah.
Watson, did he come over from Kansas City? Is that the
Kansas
same
City,
Watson?
yeah, he got experience, Justin Watson, and then you got Braxton Berrios. He's a return guy, potential
If I'm not
backup
mistaken,
slot.
was he an all pro or a pro bowler at a returner?
Braxton Berrios, I don't know if it was all pro, maybe, but I know for sure. Like he's another guy too. Like for him, it's just about being healthy. I feel like he's getting slept on, man.
He is getting slept on, but that's what you want. All those guys you mentioned. You mentioned Justin. You mentioned Metch. You mentioned Hutch. You mentioned Watson. You mentioned Barrios. The more competitions in there, the better that room's going to be, and the cream will rise to the crop. So you even got to be like, all right, I wonder who the best players will rise to the top. And that also tells me another thing too. Are you thinking about going more 10 personnel,
I
more
was gonna
four
ask you that, bro.
receivers? Like, is it more
Yes,
spread? You know what I mean? You
yes.
got Woody back there now too, right?
And
So are
CJ's
you
got control, shotgun. You
you
can
see what
all
I'm
these blitzes
saying?
that killed us. You can get rid of the ball quick. So I
Yeah.
proposed this when we drafted the two receivers. Like, could we go more Tim personnel? And a lot of fans are like, no, our O line sucks. I'm like, well, that's what you do when your O line
Two,
sucks.
yes. Get the ball out quick. Like let
Explain
him
that to the people real quick. I mean, most people in here know that,
like
but like,
literally, so it's 10 personnel is just four receivers, right? That's all it is. No tight end. So the tight end comes out, one back. So one back is the one, and the zero means no tight end, and the receiver comes in for the tight end. So it's four receivers. But now when you're in that four receiver range, you can have Christian Kirk and Noel in the slot at the same time. Now you got mismatches with safeties and nickels, right? Now you got Higgins 6'4", Higgins 6'3", Nico on the outside. So now, yeah, say your offensive line is not as elite as you would like it. Now you got quick game for sure. Now you can get the ball out quickly. Now you got screens. And don't I would encourage everybody to watch Jayden Higgins film. Watch his film. He's nimble. He caught a screen against, oh, I can't remember who it was. Might have been Iowa, and make 6'4", making guys miss. Boom, 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 boom. Get to the outside, long game. So now you got four guys you can throw screens to as receiver: Nico, Jayden,
spread it out.
Jaylin, and Christian, that can all run, that can all make plays for you. Like that's a big deal, right? So now you're opening up the run game with the pass, right? Now you're supplementing. If you can't run the ball extremely well, now you can supplement it with the short games or the shots down the field, whatever you want to do, right? There's so many things that it's another layer added when you go 10 personnel. So I'm excited to see if that's, like you mentioned, if that's what they looking at and what they want to do.
Or even too, like it wouldn't be 10 personnel, but like, Woody Marks, he caught 83 passes one year at Mississippi State. He could be a slot and be essentially a
Yes.
10 personnel. Dalton Schultz, who struggles at inline tight end, can't block, spread him out. He's a good big slot receiver. So I mean, like there could be different variations of that. I mean, I think at the very least too, like it seems like we have multiple ways to attack a defense too. Like we can go 10 personnel, we could go 13 personnel with three tight ends, with Brevin and Schultz and Stover. So like at the very least, and that's what people when they saw Nick Caley's opening presser, he talked about being a game plan offense and about being adaptable not only to his own personnel but to each week's opponent and their game plan. And people saw that as a bad thing. To me, that's a great thing. And now the way he's assembled this offense, he can do that. I mean, so are you confident they can deploy a bunch of different variations of ways to attack a defense?
That's what you want to do. And you made a great point, and it's basically different packages. It's basically different packages. And based on who you're playing and what their strengths and weaknesses are and what the matchups are, right? One of the issues that hurt the offense last year, I know we're talking about offense a lot, but one of the things that hurt the offense last year was injuries. So now you got depth. Now you got true depth in the running back position. You got depth at receiver. You got like you're adding depth in the weapons that really can help CJ in the with the full 18 game season. So I think the packages are going to be interesting to watch. And the good thing about the packages is you may You may be in 10 personnel one series. Next series you're in 13 personnel where it's 3 tight ends. The next series you may be in 21 personnel where it's 2 backs. You got Woody and Joe back there, right? So it's just a big thing where you have to be able to fool the defense, but you're running your same stuff. So
Yeah.
Woody, like you mentioned, Woody can play receiver. So he'll have to learn a lot of the slot stuff, a lot of that stuff going on, because there's situations I guarantee you, well, they'll be in different formation, and he'll motion to the slot, and he'll run a play they've ran since day one of training camp, but it'll look completely different to the defense because a running back is running it, right? Now you talk
Covered by
about
a
option
linebacker
routes.
too, probably.
Covered by a line. Talk to me,
Mismatches.
baby.
Usually
Talk
you're
to me, baby.
that's what's crazy is
Oh,
like what we're talking about now, like, getting mismatches, running option routes, hot routes. To me, it's all about, because I've been in both offenses. I've been like the old archaic one, kind of like Slowick, and the more advanced air raid Mike Leach offense. The one we're talking about, hopefully, is what happens is you're empowering your players to make decisions. It's not, hey,
yes.
run this route no matter what. Hey, based off what they do, you could do 4 or 5 different things. So that's what's got me excited.
Yeah, that's a big deal, man. Like it's gonna be exciting to see. And again, we don't know exactly what Nick's gonna do, but we can speculate, and that's the fun part, right? We can speculate and say he was here, he was here, he'll blend it, he'll do this and that. So it'll be fun to see what kind of what happens.
Well, we're right at 3:30. I know you got to go shortly after. So, and you mentioned we've been talking heavy offense. I just wanted to lean on your expertise being a former NFL wide receiver. But is there anything on the defensive side of the ball? Just kind of your thoughts on the defensive unit.
Man, they I don't know how you're gonna play everybody. That's my thing. Like I don't know. Like does Jimmy Ward still fit in? Like who's the odd man out, right? There'll be moments where there's a lot of DBs on the field, of course, especially in today's like offensive whatever, right? So there'll be times where there'll be a lot of defense on the field with the different offenses out there, but as far as the pass rushing go, let's start there. I mean, you got two of the best in the league. Will's only going to get better. Like, Will's only going to get better. And Daniil is solid, right? And then you added some good pieces. You brought back some guys for that D tackle in there. Your linebackers, you got good depth there. Your secondary depth is crazy. I can't wait to see Kamari Lassiter in year two. Um, like, I think you brought in Ronald Darby. Like, you got so many pieces that you can put together on defense. It's going to be interesting. And I think on the defensive side of the ball, you want to stay fresh. So the more, like it's always, more D linemen you have, right, the better. But the same thing at secondary. The more secondary pieces you have that can come in fresh, that are confident, that understand their role, understand how to play their particular role is going to be huge. But there always is surprise cuts every training camp, no matter what year it is. So I'm interested to see on that DB room who stays and who goes. Is there trade opportunities, right? But again, we talked about injuries on offense. Injuries hurt the defense last year too. So to have that depth in the secondary, to have that depth in different positions, I think is just clearly a really good thing. And again, it's all about competition, man. It's literally like you want. And I played for Gus Bradley in Jacksonville for a couple of years. He came from Seattle in their prime, right? With the what was the secondary called? I'm about to say
The
the
Legion of
big bad,
Boom.
the Legion of Boom, where Pete Carroll and how he did things there. It was all about competition and competing. So he brought that to Jacksonville. Now it didn't work because we were still sorry, whatever the case may be. But the mindset behind it is you compete for everything. Like we would come in on Wednesday, right? And the D-back coach would run to the front. He'll be all hype. He'll be excited. Hey, I want to see Cecil. I got Cecil. He gonna get locked down by whoever DB he chose, one on one, right? And they film everything, but they're filming the one on ones, and they come back in the meeting room the next day, and we're watching the one on one that they called out in the meeting. But it brings the best out of everybody, right? And that's what you want. You want that culture on defense, on offense, your team, just a competitive mindset that you're going to go out there and get it every day. And I think that's what they're building there. So the defense looks great to me, being honest. Um, I am interested about Christian Harris.
That's a question mark. And then like I'm a big like read the tea leaves. Like, their actions to me signal there could be, and like people get upset like when I insinuate like, hey, he could be on the chopping block. But I
Oh,
mean,
he
like
he
I
could.
thought the EJ Speed signing people are extremely undervaluing. Like I think EJ Speed was brought in to try and be a starter. I mean, he was a starter the past 2 years, you know?
Oh yeah. He's brought in to start. Like that's my opinion. I'm with you. He's brought in to start.
Yeah.
Like he's brought in
Yeah.
to compete for that starting spot. So
Him and Henry T, I would say, are probably at the top. And then Harris, I mean, yeah.
like you know what I mean? And nobody really knows because Harris was gone for a long time last year. And that's where Henry stepped up and played well. Like Henry
He
got
took that
more
job,
reps.
right?
Yes, Henry got more reps and he played extremely well. People aren't talking about Henry enough. He had a heck of a year last year. Like he stepped up in many games and played very well. Now, can he run as good as Harris? No, he probably can't, but he can do some other things pretty darn good. So and maybe they keep Harris, right? Maybe they keep. I just don't see him being. I see Harris as a starter, so maybe you can use that leverage to, whatever Nick wants to do, trade and get a pick or whatever the case may be. I don't see him being on the bench though. That's the interesting part, right? Because he's darn good and he made some big
Yeah.
plays the year before, not this past year, but the year before that really he kind of came on the scene. So it's gonna be interesting to watch that linebacker room. It's gonna be huge.
And you're in a 4-2-5. So, like, when we run that, like, I think it's like 80% of the time our base defense is 2 linebackers. And now you're going to keep 5 or 6 potential starters. I mean, it's like a waste of resources almost, you know?
It
It would
is.
be better for both parties in that sense. Like, hey, like, you could start somewhere else in a 4-2 or 4-3. But yeah, so I'm kind of with you on that. But I mean, the defense is dominant. The offense looks great. I guess before I turn you loose, just currently as it stands, how do you expect this season to go coming up?
You know what time is it? 3:35. I know the schedule comes out tonight, right? So I'm looking. I'm like, I can't wait to say, okay, W. They might lose that one. W, right? Um, I think this year, new offensive coordinator. Um, you added some pieces on the offensive line, receiver, running back, defense. You're dynamite. Everybody stays healthy. In my humble opinion, I think this is the year you get over the hump and get to the AFC Championship. I do not know if this is the year that you get to the Super Bowl. I don't know that. I can't say that for sure, right? I can't say that for sure.
That's fair.
Simply because I haven't seen Nick Caley. I think a lot would depend on how the offense runs and looks and the adjustments they can make and they can do. Um, but I think this is the year you can get over the hump. I think if you look at the big dogs in the AFC, you're competing against Buffalo, Kansas City, Baltimore, right? Those three come to mind off the top of my head. I'm sure there's others, but those three come to mind off the top of my head. And you won't have to play all of them. I think Kansas City is ready for a beatdown. I do. I think it's time. I think it's time. But I think CJ in his third year, just the off season's been a lot more quiet, and I love
Hmm.
that. I love that because to
We
me
all
that
do.
tells me he's dialed in. He is dialed in. Gee, like it's gonna be fun, man. Like it's gonna be fun to see. But I think this year to go AFC Championship. Of course, a lot depends what they do on the field, right? But AFC Championship, I think, is a legitimate. I would be happy if they get there and not there alone, right? Of course, you always want a Super Bowl, but I think to get over that hump and get to the AFC Championship game, I think that would light a fire in the city. That would light a
Facts,
fire
big
in
time, dude.
all
It's a
all
football
Texans
town, man. I know
fans.
we got like I love the Astro, I love the Rocket, but this is a football town, bro. Like if we made it to the AFC Championship for the first
Yeah,
time ever,
yeah. And I mean that's the next step, right? That's the next step. You have to be a true contender because we've been to the second round before. You've been to
yeah,
the divisional round before. You've never been to the AFC Conference Championship. So now it's time to get to that status. And I think you can do it this year. Now, I think for next year, if things go well, I think that's the year. And a couple years after that, you'd be like, all right, cool. We're
that's
true. We,
fair.
we can get there.
And D'Amico, our head coach who played for us, is well aware of this and has said it out loud. That was the first thing he said after the loss against KC. He's like, "That's good, but it's not good enough." He's like, "I'm well aware of this franchise's history. We need to make that next step." So,
Yep.
man, Cecil,
Yep.
this has been awesome, man. I feel like we, kind of vibe and agree on a lot of stuff. So that was cool to do there. But if you don't, again, mind before we head off, just to kind of shout out your stuff and what you got going on, where they can find you at.
Well, man, it's a pleasure being on here. Please, we got to do it again. This was fun.
Have me
This
on
was
your show
fun.
sometime too when the new
Oh
guest comes.
yes, yes, yes. So
I'm
when
down
that
whenever.
new host comes, we'll get you on there. But hey, you can check me out. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Twitter is C Shorts III. And then Instagram, just my name, Cecil Shorts III. And then all my podcasts, we got Bleav in Texas podcast with a new co-host coming soon. That's on all podcast platforms. And then a YouTube show called The Ultimate 216. We're here on all Cleveland sports, talking Shador, of course, and everything with the Browns, Cavaliers, and Guardians. So appreciate you, man.
All right. And we'll just end it right here, and I'll say my goodbyes when we get off just for 1 second. But, shout out everybody tuning in. Appreciate you guys tuning in. It seems like people really enjoyed the insight from you. So y'all have a good day. And